Hi and welcome to Change from the Centre. I'm the political geek that is Martin Curtis. Today we're going to talk about PR or proportional representation because I think PR is a thing whose time has come. I think our first past the post system is busted, not just because of the political scenarios we've got going on at the moment where PR won't work, where you've got this spread of popularity around 5 different parties, which is relatively even. PR just won't work. It's not geared up for that. But there's far more important things about the confidence in our democracy, in particular. And, that it sort of comes to the core of everything that Change from the Centre is about, which is about the need for centre ground change to work and to make change happen within the UK. So I'm going to put up a couple of slides that sort of make the case to say we need to be moving in this direction now. I know for sure that some of you are already thinking this way, but I'm just going to put this up anyway, this first one, which is about confidence in our democracy and satisfaction with our democracy. So 2 aspects to this. The first one is increasingly, and this is a good thing, Britons think that democracy is a good thing. And, we go back here to the Winston Churchill quote, which is that democracy is the worst form of governance, except for all the other things that we try from time to time. But underneath that is the most important thing. 17% of the people in the UK indicate they're highly satisfied. Just 17%. And that puts us on a level with Russia, Mexico, and Nigeria. That's really, really uncomfortable reading. And it's not like this is stats that have been pulled from nowhere. This is coming from King's College London. And the link is down there if you want to go and check it out. But it just shows that actually, we are not getting it right and that our political system is broken. But the other part of that is people know that proportional representation is there and they are broadly supportive of it. And so this is the next slide, really, and this sort of provides a foundation for what I want to talk about today. So support for PR, 49% of the British public, compared to 26% who explicitly support first past the post. And remember, this is in a country where people like the status quo. Admittedly, 25% of neutral, but actually overwhelmingly 49% support proportional representation. Even if you get to conservative voters, the difference between those who support PR and those who support first past the post is marginal, very, very marginal, to the extent where if we had a referendum on a proper form of PR, I'll come to that in a second, I believe a lot of those people would be swung over. Because the difference is very, very marginal. So we've got 2 things. We've got people saying they're not happy with the way our democracy is functioning. But we've also got people saying we want and deserve proportional representation. Those that are against it will probably, as part of their argument, point to the referendum we had when Nick Clegg was Deputy Prime Minister. But that was on a system called alternative vote. It was a ludicrous system. It was never going to get support. And for all that I quite like Nick Clegg, actually, he got that wrong. And why he insisted on a vote on AV and a referendum on AV, I'll never, ever know. So how does PR work? Well, there's one fundamental thing about PR that is different to our system that makes it better and more attractive, especially in a system that lives with communications and social media in the way that it is. And that is, if 10% of the public vote for Party X, then Party X will get 10% of the seats. It's a really important principle that it is nuanced in different ways. There are, I think, 10% and 5% limits where if you get less than 10% or 5% of the votes, you don't get any seats. But they can all be worked out. But there's a reality, which is that the party gets the proportion of the votes that it asks for, and then the parties have to work together to form coalitions. And those coalitions work. And we know that because satisfaction in places like Germany compared to ours, still not 100% satisfied. And I'm not saying proportional representation is perfect, but they are far more satisfied with how their democracy functions than we are in the UK. Sometimes those negotiations take ages as well. I think Belgium spent 2 or 3 months, maybe even longer, trying to sort out a government, and they've done that a couple of times. But the system doesn't fall over because you put checks and balances in that make sure that while those negotiations about who does what and who aligns with what, who forms government go on, the government still basically functions. So, it wouldn't break our democracy, at all because of that indecisiveness. What it would, in my view, help to do is get rid of the animosity that there is within our political system, or at least some of that animosity. Because if you have a possibility of working with somebody after a general election as part of a coalition, you're not going to behave in the same way that you do under the adversarial system we've got now. It's worth saying underneath that, there's a lot of good joint working that goes on in Parliament that we don't get to see. But there's also far too much of the adversarial stuff, and we need to get rid of it. And I think that's really important. But as far as general elections are concerned, it would make a huge difference. At the moment, I worked out, I think it's a 2019 general election. The Conservative Party had something like 100 target seats. I might be wrong in that. It might even have been less. But what that means is all of the Conservative Party's effort is going into those 100 target seats. If you're in a marginal seat, no political party is going to actively campaign in there. So effectively, the focus is on the focus. And remember, on those target seats, the Conservatives are trying to win over a very small number of people in those seats, in the same way that the Labour are in their target seats and the Lib Dems are in there. You're talking about very, very tiny margins. So the focus of the effort in a general election is massively disproportionate. And that's one of the reasons why people get disillusioned. There are also, within a general election or any election that uses first past the post, there are a huge number of people that look at the system they've got. They look at the majority that they're having to live with, and they know that their vote does not count one jot. We live in a democracy. Everybody's vote should count, or as many people's as possible. You go back to that 5% thing that I talked about earlier on. And that's what proportional representation offers. It offers a system where every vote counts, where during a general election, every single vote is campaigned for. The campaigning is spread right across the board. But also the campaigning is based on the fact that after the election, we know there's going to be a coalition going on. Not this situation we get at the moment where there's no way I'm forming a coalition with them, and then you get into government and you go, oh, changed my mind. They never changed their mind at all. They just said what you wanted to hear, or what a huge a number of people wanted to hear. So I think there is a great deal to say about PR. I would repeat that it's not a perfect system, and nor will it be, but it's better than what we have now. One of the things that I find astonishing is the media don't talk about PR. There are more people, that 49% again, that support transition to proportional representation than support any particular political party. It's the single thing that probably most of the electorate in the UK are united on more than anything else, is a move to PR. But the media don't talk about it, and they don't talk about it at all. And it's about time we started to see the BBCs and the Sky News and maybe even GBTV and the others starting to talk about PR as a system, starting to run programs that talk about how PR could function in the UK and how we could nuance it. So, as an example, that you maintain a constituency link, because that's one of the big arguments against PR is our current constituency system is really good. It's not good for everybody, by the way, but you can have PR systems that have constituency links. I've talked to people who will not contact their MP because he's a Conservative. I think they're wrong, by the way. I think an MP is there to represent, once elected, he's there to represent everybody. But there are those people. And under a PR system, if you've got a constituency link of some sort, you could make that work. So one of the things I would say at the end of this, there's obviously the normal stuff about liking and subscribing and all those things. But I would please beg you also, if you're one of those people that writes to the media, drops notes into Times Radio or wherever, when you drop them in, if you're critical of one of the other things that's gone on, many other things that's gone on in politics, feel free to throw in there and say, if we had a system of proportional representation, this would never have happened. If you write to your member of parliament about an issue, and always write to your member of parliament and politely, don't ever be rude. Don't ever contact them on X and be rude, or Facebook or wherever. Always do it politely. But if you do write to them, or if you do speak to them, mention proportional representation. The more of them that start to hear it, the more of them will wake up. We need to remember that the Labour Party have already got a resolution in favour of proportional representation that went through their party conference. We've already got a Liberal Democrat Party that support proportional representation. So if we keep nudging and keep nudging, we'll eventually get there, is my view. I hope you understand why I support PR. I can never cover it all in this video. Go away and research, do your research, and find out what it is you need to know, and the further facts that you need. But it's a big issue, and one that people like me who really passionately want better politics in the UK need to get behind. Thanks once again for watching and listening. I really do appreciate those who spend time listening to what I've got to say. Really appreciate it.